So yeah, I started teaching music technology to guys about 20 years ago, and they're okay, no problems there, but actually the society we live in is a lot more diverse than that for a start. Actually, according to the Sound Girls and Women's Audio Mission and various other industry advocates, less than 5% of behind-the-glass sound engineers are women. Maybe statistics have evolved a little bit since that was documented. But when you look at the Audio Engineering Society's website, specifically towards, they changed it a little bit, and they've separated out sessions and oral history, but you don't see, just a few women, but really what you see is this. And it's not altogether relatable for everybody. Let's just get back to this. And it raises questions for me about who we platform. There are very, very good reasons, but who we platform, what kind of experiences are prioritised, what that kind of visibility does for those people and also the community at large. Actually, there are lots of statistics, but I'm going to point you towards Georgie Bourne and Carl Devine's UCAS data analysis. They purchased £4,000 worth of data from UCAS, which you can now get for free, I believe. They looked at applications to music and music technology courses over a period of 10 years, 12 institutions, incidentally, including Huddersfield, and that's 38 degree courses. Whilst there was a 1,400% increase in applicants, they looked at ethnic diversity, they looked at socio-economic background, but really concerned with gender right now. And nearly 90% of those people were male. So that doesn't look terribly encouraging for the future of the industry from the perspective of gender. And it got me to thinking about how many graduates that is. So if you think that there are roughly 140 music technology degree courses in the UK, and maybe an average of 50 students, I couldn't say really, but if you multiply that by that number of courses, you end up with 7,000 graduates, maybe 6,300 of those are not men. Now I'm talking in really binary terms, that doesn't even look at non-binary genders. So what's the problem? Surely that's just the way things are. And that's what I thought for many years. But it is important because it impacts on who is shaping what we hear, who is platformed, whose voice is prominent, who our sound engineers are, who our hardware and software developers are, what they're developing. And if you believe that creativity is shaped by the tools that you're using, think about who's developing those tools, which I'm sure that you have a little already because you're here. Who is curating festival lineups? I'll come to this in a second. Conferences, journals, editor panels, whose voices are normalised. And this is guided often by social capital, networks, choosing people who are reliable, choosing people that you know are going to deliver, that people want to listen to, because that's safer. Female pressure have done some interesting. Sorry about the hand in the middle of the screen. I had a presentation catastrophe last night, so I had to screen grab every single slide. I hadn't even noticed that was there. So what they did was they looked at festivals across the world from 2012, every year since 2017 so far, just to look at who's been platformed music festivals from a gender perspective. And if it was close, then you think maybe it's not too big a problem, but it's not even close, and it's only creeping as well. So you might be thinking, maybe women are just not that interested. We'll come back to that in a minute. There are obviously lots of careers, and if half of the population is not present in that respect, there's an economic problem. Women like working too, obviously. So I wasn't terribly satisfied to just sit back on this issue. In fact, if we look at that a little bit closer, sources of digital, culture, media and sports website statistics, the creative industries generates 91.8 billion a year to the UK economy. In 2015, it's 9.4% of our total UK service exports. And you look at the fields of music, I think my clickers on its way out. Music and arts, IT, software and games, film and TV. Obviously, these are these are careers in sound and music. It's a very real career trajectory, as we know. The value of our service exports a year from the creative industries is 21.2 billion, and in 2016, 3.04 million jobs in the creative industries meant that 1 in 4 jobs were in the creative industry. So this is quite a sizable economic picture. We can't really afford to be complacent about diversity, because that's a lot of work. So the big question is, what can we do about this? Well, actually, there are many women working in sound, and organisations like Female Pressure that do a lot of their own back, volunteer labour, have undertaken to create this equivalent sort of database, those people obviously, of women just working in studio environments. And this is relatable, and it's relief, and it's important for younger people, all kinds of younger people, just for this kind of thing to become way more normalised. I don't know what's going on there. Get back there eventually. I'm going to go back to the internet, but I found 60 organisations that set themselves up to support women and non-binary people. That's 60 organisations. Many of them have groups of 100 subgroups. So that's people all over Europe and North America in particular, specifically supporting women and non-binary people. That raises a question about what's wrong with our situation that needed to happen even in the first place. There's something social and culturally interesting about that. So women need better visibility, more diversity is needed, definitely with women, and working in audio, that's certainly the case. In 2015 I went to Berlin. I conducted 18 interviews with women and non-binary people in the music scene, and I conducted a thematic analysis because I asked them what got them into working with technology for music, when does gender come into the conversation. It was a really interesting month, as you can imagine. It's two key things came up. One of them was the challenge of gaining access to equipment, so economic capital. Grace Banks talks about the studio environment in an article in Quietus about having an inclusive, welcoming environment for everybody. And there are things that might be happening that you don't realise are not inclusive to everybody. So people have considerable social capital as well, which means that you have access to that equipment, and everybody needs a chance to touch, unselfconsciously work with equipment, and to talk about it in a completely relaxed environment, in a relaxed way. So this idea of social capital is absolutely crucial. To be able to ask questions that are uncomfortable when you're not the only woman in a room of, say, 200 people at a digital music conference, for example, is helpful. So there's a great benefit in bringing women together. It takes some of those things away. Research in social psychology and creativity, this bottom point here, on learning and creativity and education, points towards a need for low-risk spaces, because when you take risks, that's when you learn. And there we have the Yorkshire Sound Network. In 2015, I sent out a tweet, and 16 women came together in a games workshop for the first time, and we started something called the Yorkshire Sound Network. That's not the first meeting, by the way. We formed a co-working group. We've met 36 times, once a month for 3 hours, and we've done considerable work. The meetings are generally, initially they were about sound practices and finding out who knows what and who does what, because that was a refreshing change from our normal environments to begin with. And some people were really just there because they'd never done anything like this before and they wanted to find their way into it, and others were very experienced and they wanted to support other people. So some people found that it was inconvenient to have to come to Huddersfield. I understand, so they set up groups elsewhere. So we have a very active group in Sheffield. We even inspired a group to start in Malta, and they're starting an NGO with the Electronic Music Malta. This is social and economic capital in safer environments for learning. There are many different kinds of groups and meetings. So there are informal socials, and these are the kinds of things that happen there, and funded workshops as well, when we can get funding to do things. We've had over 88 events in that time, 14 grant-funded workshops, 24 volunteer-led workshops, and 50 informal knowledge sharing socials for over 300 seats, so people have come back. The Yorkshire Salmon Network has 2 International Women's Days, that's where that picture was from, both for 40 people each year. And people come from London, Manchester and Newcastle. There's a real interest in women coming together to do this. So the Yorkshire Salmon Network is successfully creating work and supporting women in our networks, building social and economic capital for women. But when we talk about, you probably don't want to, I'm just put this here so that you can see we've had quite a lot of grant success. We've actually got an event coming on the 14th of September where you can see some performances and hear much more about the organisation. And quite often after a panel session I've had the question, we've all had the question, what can men do to help, which is an uncomfortable question, but there's actually some really concrete things that everybody who's running a studio or in industry can do to support these kinds of organisations. So that's the event. But I'll just leave you with this final point before passing over. For me, the Yorkshire Salmon Network is not just been about women. When we talk about this sort of Pandora's box that we've opened, it opens up lots of other questions about the speculations and the conclusions we might wrongfully draw about why people don't do things or why people are absent. And those people may be of different ethnicities from you, or diverse genders, or people with disabilities, or people who can't come to conferences like this because they can't afford it, or don't want to come onto a university campus. There are lots of ways that some people are comfortable and able and included, and that might not always be clear. So above all, the Yorkshire Salmon Network has taught me what I've learned not to notice. I'll just leave you with Sarah Ahmed. So,
It seems to want to stay on presenting slideshows, photographs. Have you got it set up? Sorry, it's just I can't read that from here. I discovered today I need glasses. Resistance is futile. Oh, no, I think it's just, it's automatically when I put it onto the... Yeah, to go back. Yeah, just leave on that. Okay, I'll read it full screen. Is this all? No, okay, so thank you very much, Liz. That was really helpful, and I would urge you to go onto the Yorkshire Women Network website and read more about the wonderful work that they're doing. And if you can make it to Huddersfield for the launch on the 14th, I would highly recommend that you do that too. Okay, so women produce music, and I will come to why it's called women produce music. But right now, just to let you know that we actually had a soft launch at the end of December 2014, and we haven't had a formal physical launch as yet because we're waiting on a funding grant, which we're told isn't a guarantee, but we think is coming through. So once that happens, then we will formally launch. And so we expect to do that, to announce it within the next few weeks. And if we don't get the funding, we're launching anyway. So we will be announcing no matter what. It's just it will be more voluntary, free work, working till all the hours at night and living on Twitter. Okay, so these were the aims back in 2013 when, after a research exercise, which I will come back to, that was presented at the 2011 Art of Record production with myself in the UK and Richard James Burgess and then at Smithsonian, now at A2IM, conducted, which was quite similar to the Georgine Vaughan one, which was but we presented it in 2011, and it was a 6-year analysis, but we didn't get, we literally did it for this one paper and we did quite a lot of work. But this has really informed a lot of the decisions that I personally made thereafter. So at first I thought, okay, great. I went and met with several of the industry organisations that we have in the UK and got really excited and thought, oh, we should start this massive research project and have all the industry involved and have all the academic institutions that ASAP and lots of the other IASPM and other academic conferences have, and we could all gather all these statistics and so on and so on. Simply because the first obstacle that I was presented with in the UK when I was trying to gather the data was exactly the cost factor that Georgina came up against. I was told that I would need to find £800 just to get the figures that I was asking, which was just simply how many women are enrolling on your courses. And thankfully, through a lot of begging and pleading, a lot of figures were given to me complimentary. And that was really a positive thing for me, but also was a barrier for why we don't have these statistics in the first place. So it highlighted that in itself, became part of the research. So some of these things I was looking at today, these aims, and I was thinking, well, a lot of it, on a personal level, I feel like, oh, I really understand, and why do I want to alter the factors, and why do we want more women progressing in this profession, what profession? And, you know, it really raises a lot of, I've always been conflicted. I've always been conflicted between the practitioner and, for me, an academic. And I've always been conflicted about women in music and women in record production, and why there aren't, why we have Jo Meeks and Phil Spectors and we don't have Phyllis Spectors, as everyone says, and Joanna. And that's the problem, I think. Why do we need to tick the same boxes? Why do we have to look like a traditional record producer in order to be called a record producer? Why can't I be a self-producing artist and still be called a producer? And do I think that I'm, not me personally, but do I think that if you are a self-producing artist that you are a record producer, or are you a composer that uses technology to produce music? And so there isn't a single thought that I have that doesn't have a counter argument, all in my own head most of the time. So anyway, I won't read through all of those, but I will come back to the documentary because that's very relevant. But in a nutshell, on our Twitter, WPM is an artist and producer-led not-for-profit promoting and supporting the activities of music makers, producers and engineers through a series of collaborative projects and initiatives. It's written that way because that's the only way it's going to fit in the Twitter description. And I hadn't realised how important it is, but I'm increasingly realising that being an artist-led and a producer-led organisation is really important, because we all bring our own stories and our own journeys to anything we do. And I realise that I'm trying to come to terms with my own story at the same time as I am trying to bring together other people, not just women, that have their own stories and can contribute to this conversation, and how we can move away from the narrative that I grew up around, which is the why are there not more women producing records? Why is there only 5%, the famous 5%, without any description as to what that 5% represents? Who does that 5% represent? I'm not in any of those statistics. A lot of people I know aren't in those statistics. So, moving on, this picture is taken from a video still from 2000 when I was contracted by Mute Records and produced with another female for an album for their label that at the time I didn't even think about it or realise or even consider myself a producer, in the sense that because I was composing. So I was in the studio, we were co-writing, we were producing some songs that were going to be released, hopefully. And like everybody, I was learning on the job. I owned my own studio. I'd learned how to solder and build studios. I'd been paid to help solder and build other people's studios, not because I was an expert, but because I would do it cheaply. And I knew how to do it. Simple as that. I didn't put it on my CV. I didn't do it because I wanted to do it. I did it because it gave me extra money so that I could afford to pay my rent at the studio. Like so many people that do what they do. This is actually East Coast Studios in Kensal Rise, and it's still there now. They had the biggest studio above us. So when I was in our studio working, and we had small projects, if they got bigger, and if we got bigger budgets, then we would move upstairs to the bigger studio at East Coast Studios, and when they had small projects and they needed another schoolroom, they would come down to us. So, but this is our gear. That each one of those bits of kit has a story. I remember when I bought them, I remember when I had to sell them to pay the rent, I remember when I worked on a project that I thought was about to become huge and didn't become huge, or when they went on and worked with the named producer instead, and then the album got shelved because it didn't sound as good as the demo, but they still didn't come back to you. You know, they all have stories. I have a 12-year story, like all of you probably in this room that came from industry. And I show these pictures in telling this story, not because I want to promote myself, but because I think it's really, I hadn't realised how important it was that we kept some video footage and some pictures of these important. I remember the pictures being taken saying, I hate having pictures taken, don't take any pictures, and I had a huge row with Steve, who's in the room, about taking pictures and video, and now he's going, oh, I'm really glad that we filmed it, because it felt intrusive and it felt like it was a bit too much of a commercial type of move. But anyway, I'm glad we did, because it's now going to form part of a promo for a demo, for a documentary. And my goodness, I had to take the music off it, so I'm hoping it won't play, well, it's just a drum machine playing a click track. But I just wanted to quickly show you some of the raw footage that we're starting to edit very quickly.
Is that medium not and?
Okay, so I won't show it to you. So anyway, this is our studio downstairs, that was, again, from 1995. So that's the desk, that's the patch bay. I remember making the patch bay, I remember calling at that time Kelsey's to explain about unbalanced and balanced, and not sure if I was getting it right, and how to get these little labels and strips, and so that they would fit in the patch bay, just coming up with all sorts of things. It was a labour of love. The good old Cubase and the Atari. So this was our studio, and this is about years later. It's still there. Upstairs is Eastcote, and this is the person who, the people who took it over from us was actually Dreadzone, but after that they passed it on, and this chap. So that's the exact same room, just with a mixing desk. And this is what he did. That vocal booth, we had a friend of ours who's a prop builder, built it for us for like £200, and that's our vocal booth on the left. This is the studio that we then moved on to in Wandsworth. So anyway, so I just wanted to give you a little bit about my background to show that there is that progression and there is that history, and it's these sorts of stories that I want to tell, not just for myself, but for the community that we're building and that exists out there. That goes beyond photographs, but also tells their stories. So in 2011 we presented some research, which hopefully I'll get to, and at that time, importantly, we had a panel with Women's Audio Mission, Terry Winston on the panel, and Marcella Ariaka, who's a huge, not producer so much as she is a mix engineer and has her own studio, and engineer and works with Missy Elliott a lot, and you know, big SSL desk. You know, she's, a lot of people probably haven't heard of her, and she's, like I said, she's got a massive studio. She works with Timberlake, and anyway, so she came and spoke, and she's absolutely brilliant. So the research, very quickly, that we presented at that time, just to show you some of the progressions, because it will lead into Mariana's talk for the AS. But we started with looking at a paper that was delivered at the AS in 1980, and that the conclusion then was that there was a historical separation from the practice and theory of technology, combined with a gruesome lack of entry-level positions. In 1995, the AS formed a Women's Audio Subcommittee, which in turn launched the Women in Audio project in 2000 to focus on researching a disproportionate number of women in the field of audio engineering. And in 2000, September 23rd, Cossack Collier of Middlesex, Tennessee State University wrote to the AS Educators Group announcing the dissolution of the AS Women in Audio Committee, of which she was the chair, saying, "Our research showed that the average number of women in recording or audio engineering programs was about 10%. The problem did not seem to be within the industry, but actually something more related to society and early education. The AS didn't feel that this was something a technical standards organisation could effectively address." They've changed their mind, by the way. And in 2003, Terry Winston started a non-profit organisation called Women's Audio Mission, which is dedicated to the advancement of women in music production and recording arts. And it's, you know, anybody who doesn't know anything about Women's Audio Mission, please look them up as well. They run the first, I think they say worldwide, recording studio that's run and owned solely by women. But they do lots more than that. They educate, they teach, they advocate, and they're part of, Terry now recently sitting on the Grammys Diversity Committee that's trying to work out how to overcome the challenges that they've been facing, about the chair saying that we needed to step up if we really wanted to win some awards. So we're all going to step up and win some awards soon. So Six Patterson presented her paper 38 years now ago. We had witnessed the technological evolution which has rendered the personal studio both feasible and reasonably cost effective. There is also a plethora of music technology, engineering, production courses, therefore we should be vastly increased numbers of women entering into the profession. And again, we need to define what we mean by the profession. So a brief summary of the findings at that time, which I shall go past because of time, but very simply that out of 505 UK courses that I got stats for in the UK. It was like Georgian Borns, 90%. Most of the studios received less than 1%, studio managers received less than 1% CVs from women, and most studio managers were women. We then had another panel in Philadelphia, Drexel University, which Suzanne Chiani, Susan Rogers, and Maureen Droney, who is the executive director of the Producers and Engineers Wing, Recording Academy and Grammys. I've changed the names a bit. And we heard more about the work from all three women. Suzanne Rogers, Prince's engineer at his best years, I reckon, and started his archive, which Vault. She started it, and interestingly, there was a little video footage in which the BBC were doing a documentary on Prince, and they were interviewing her and actually asked the question, "Do you know about Vault?" And she says, "Yes, I built it." So quite interesting that they got to, as far as filming, having probably contacted her and read up about her, and still didn't know that Vault was something she herself had built. And then this year, and we also did one in Norberg as well, which is a little panel. So one of the main things is that from here on in, every year we will have a WPM panel to host these types of conversations until this room's full of educators who want to know why they're not getting more than a few women on their courses. We'll talk about some other organisations, but very quickly, we recently partnered with a new collective at the Writing Music Conference that was launched called the Women in Dance Music Collective. Even though I don't work in dance music, and I rarely dance these days, I will say that this was important for us to go ahead and do, because actually we really felt that our help was needed, because just simply I was approached to be on a panel to help bring some women onto the panel, and even the approach and the way they went about it, had it been anyone else, I think they probably would have failed. And that in itself highlighted that actually, if I could just overcome my discomfort and still turn up, because there was only going to be another woman on the panel, if I wasn't there, she'd be on her own. And I actually, by having overcome my discomfort, we ended up with this collective being launched, and we ended up with me chairing and 2 women on the panel in the end at the last minute. And so had I not turned up, it would have just been, well, we asked and she didn't turn up, and no one would be any the wiser as to why. So positives can come out of us absorbing some of the negative experiences, because usually it's not intended, but it's just people that are used to behaving a certain way and approaching women in a certain way. So we ended up with this, and that's not a bad thing for us as an organisation to have achieved, to have our logo up there, the key change from PRS and DJ and electronic music and so on. And the producer panel was actually quite good fun, and I think it was quite nice to see some press faces when someone had a whinge about Ableton. I was able to discuss 8-speed converters, and everyone was like, so those that were on the panel falling asleep suddenly realised that I actually did know something. So that helped. And I think I don't even know.
Now, what inspired you to get into the music industry? It's always been a passion, and increasingly I'm finding I'm doing more and more things within it, which is a delightful surprise.
I just love music. I love dance music. I came here from New York. I ended up working for Pete Tong, which was a fantastic experience many years ago, and I've never kind of looked back.
which is quite nice. This is important, sorry, I have to play this in my phone too.
Ellie Celebian here at Brighton Music Conference as Women in Dance Music Collective launches for the very first time with Mark Lauren, also Ambassador of Women in Dance Music Collective. Mark, how come you are one of the ambassadors? What happened there?
Well, Duke reached out to me and it was a very quick decision to say yes. For now about 9 months at AFM we've had a diversity and inclusion group with the aim of which to ensure that diversity of all kinds is represented in electronic music and nurtured wherever possible. One of the first things that we're doing is to understand just how diverse in terms of the workforce our members are, and we've just started a survey, which I think is the first time it's been done, just to truly understand the makeup of electronic music businesses. And from that we can start to create role models and best practices just to increase the inclusivity. We've worked with a number of different women's groups. We're a very open organisation. We always try and create platforms through which people can come together rather than try and dominate the narrative. So when Julie reached out, it was an instant yes for me.
And Julie's involved with the Brighton Music Conference, and you know, to be quite honest, having gone to that, I'd never been there before, I hadn't really heard of it, and it was quite interesting to see how different it felt. I felt like I'd stepped back in time about 10-15 years in terms of just dynamic, and so I think they'll really will benefit from doing this if they really embrace it and carry on. So when I say about changing narratives, I just quickly took these last minute, just threw some, you know, do a search on Google and you'll get bombarded with about hundreds of these sorts of, why aren't there more women? Where are all the female music producers? You know, when I come up, it was always about, where are you? Where is it? Where is it? You know, and if you know where we are, then what? Once you know we exist, once you know where we are, what next? What's the plan? Do you want us on your courses? Do you want us in your studios? Do you want us on your boards? Do you want us to be on your panels? What is it you want to do once you identify where all the women producers are? I won't take the time. Thank you.
I don't have a PowerPoint, I have pieces of paper, so you just have to look at me face. Sadly. Thank you very much for coming out. I'll introduce myself because I'm sure most of you don't actually know me. My name is Marianne Lopez. I'm actually the chair of the Audio Engineering Society UK section, a society that has been featured quite negatively today. But I will talk about what we do at the UK level to change that. I'm also a lecturer in sound production and post-production at the Department of Theatre, Film and Television at the University of York. And as a practitioner, I'm a sound designer. Now, what I want to talk to you about today is what the AES UK is doing about gender equality. And of course, the AES has featured its awful live videos online, which I've already complained about, where you see all this white men. I think there's 2 videos now out of the women which will be complaining about confusingly. Of course, the dissolution in 2000 of the Diversity Initiative, which was reinstated last year with the Diversity and Inclusivity Committee, which is what I'm involved with, but it's not what I'm going to be talking about today. So the AES does have a Diversity and Inclusivity Committee that is based in headquarters and is international, but what I'm going to be talking today is the UK-based initiative. So, about almost a year ago, going to be a year in February, I became the first female chair of the AES in the UK, which of course was a huge honour. It was also very sad to know that we had never had a woman in this position. But since I've been working for the AES for many years. I was a graduate representative for the York Student Section many years ago. I then led the Cambridge region a few years ago, and then I moved on to the north of England, back to the north of England, and I took the vice chair position, and followed by the chair position, and then it's followed by the unglamorous past chair role, which is an awful title, which changed for something that sounds a bit better. But the reason why I've been involved with the AES for so long, you might be wondering why someone that campaigns for gender equality would want to be associated with a society that has this not very good reputation for gender equality. The AES made a huge difference in my life. The AES funded part of my PhD. I think I'm confident to say I wouldn't be standing here if it wasn't for the AES. And I feel that my role to give back to the society is to do as much as I can to make it much, much better. And I believe I have, myself and my colleagues are doing so. And that's why I took the chair position. I wanted to actually be able to take action. I didn't want us to sit down and talk about, oh, this is really bad, you know, not women in audio, what are we going to do about it? No, I wanted us to do things and to be seen as the section that was leading the way and hopefully showing internationally what the AES should be doing. So we decided to campaign under the banner of the United Nations He for She campaign. For those of you not familiar with it, He for She was launched a few years ago with a very, very moving speech by Emma Watson. I'm sure you all know who she is. And the campaign is about involving men with gender equality. So it's about breaking with this idea that gender is a woman's problem and that women should be campaigning for it and doing all the work for it. The campaign, on the opposite, vouches for men taking a lead in campaigns. And that's the reason why a lot of our He for She events, you will notice, actually has about 50-50 representation. And we actually also include non-binary. So even though it has the unfortunate name He for She, which is a binary denomination, we do support non-binary communities. I often get asked, why is it so important that men support the campaign? Reason one, the AES, there is, as far as we know, this is very difficult to get the stats, it's about 6% female representation. If we don't engage men in the fight for equality, we're going to lose. That's as simple as that. 6% is not going to be able to do all the job. The other reason is that what happens a lot in equality campaigning, and it has to do with everything that is related to minorities, is that minorities, we keep doing all the work, we're always going to be minorities, and we're always going to be losing. Because as I was telling Kat and Elise earlier, while I am campaigning for equality, my male academics are writing journal papers and getting promotions to professorships, which I'm not going to get because I'm making the world better. Sadly, making the world better apparently is not as recognised as highly as writing journal papers nobody reads. I write those as well and nobody reads them, but it's fine. But I think that is another reason. If we continue burdening ourselves with this, we're never going to become top engineers. We're not going to win all those awards that this gentleman thinks we should step up and just win. So that was a decision I woke up this morning, everybody browning. So that is another reason why that is important. Someone once, sadly, this was a very disappointing moment for me when we do a lot of branding of the AES, the He for She campaign, and I have this wonderful pens, I don't have any to give you today. And I gave it to her, and she said, oh, I don't like this, you know, it's like, oh, we need these men to protect us. I was like, no, that's not what the campaign is about. The campaign is about being stronger together. Equality benefits us all. Think about all the men that you might know that would like to stay at home and work from home and look after the kids, and they can't do that because of legislation, because of social constructs. So this is what He for She is about. And that's why we decided to campaign under that banner. What it is that we do is what really, really matters. We started off asking people to pledge. So if you go to heforshe.org, you will notice that there is a tab that says commit. You can add your name, you can choose whatever gender you identify with, and you get an email saying, thanks for committing to gender equality. So we ask everyone in the audio industries, whether they're AES members or not, to sign the pledge, send us a screenshot of this, and then we can share it in our social media channels. And if you don't want to share it, but you're signing the pledge, that's fine by me. We've so far collected about 150 pledges. And this was a way of getting started and saying, well, we're doing this, we are committed. But of course, one can sign a pledge and not do anything. It's very easy to sign an online website after all. So we started looking at something that has been mentioned in the previous two presentations. Who is invited to give talks, for example? So I went very systematically through all the records in the systems of the AES UK, and there was years and years and years of that on end without me and non-male speakers. So we started changing that, and now, for example, this is just an example because I haven't checked all the events, but I sent a newsletter to the AS membership last night, and 5 out of our 9 speakers are female. And in the AS North, at the minute, is 100% female speakers. We need to address the balance, and I am committed to do it. Another example of this is we ran annually the Upper Output event. That is a student event, so it's free to all the AS student members. It's generally a weekend of activities. Last year we had 50% of female speakers, and that raised attendance of female and non-binary participants to 33%. We think that 6% is what we're using as statistics. This is incredibly high. And that demonstrates that when you have a diverse range of speakers, you will also have diversity in your audiences. Students were delighted, speakers were delighted, and commented on it quite a lot, which is likely that those speakers will want to present again with us because they were happy with the experience they had. And the students will hopefully feel welcomed and will want to continue as part of the AS. Another important thing that we do is we provide bursaries for memberships. So far we've had Big Bear Audio, Isotope, and Nugan Audio sponsoring 9 bursaries. And what this means is that we open applications to female and non-binary students and early career professionals to apply for free membership to the AS. If it's a student membership, things that you get is, for example, on this, if you're an educator, I'll tell you about the new opportunities in a second. You get £1,000 worth of free plugins. You get to go to a free Apple event, but you also get loads of educational resources. The educational resources as well are with the professional membership, and you get discounts for events like conferences and conventions. And more importantly, you get to be active in society and then have your voice heard and have a change. So, for example, you can vote to who represents you as part of the AS. A lot of what I get, the bursaries have been immensely successful. We've awarded every bursary, we've advertised. I often, with the positive comments, there was someone online the other day that called me destructive behaviour, this bursary. I still don't know what is destructive about that. I think he's probably incredibly insecure that maybe a much more talented female engineer is going to maybe get the contract he wants because he's not good enough. So there's nothing destructive and there's nothing about positive discrimination here, and I want to clarify this. This is another very silly thing I've heard recently. This is not positive discrimination. This is we have a problem, we have an imbalance, and we're addressing it. That's not positive discrimination. That's making the ground equal so that everybody can access it, and then the most talented people do the best work, and not just the ones that got there because of their social, gender, and class conditions. So that's just to clarify what the bursaries are about. They're not just about money as well. I sometimes get asked, well, actually, the student memberships are quite cheap. Why bother rewarding this? It's true. An AS UK student membership is about £37, £39. It's not a lot of money. For some students, it will be a lot of money. But it is a lot about the welcoming message. It's about saying, we want you to be part of the society, and we want you to feel welcome, and we want you to have a say. And it's also a bit about addressing those statistics. And it's also about confidence building. Many people that are not part of minorities don't realise what it is like to be a minority. They don't realise what it's like to be that person in the room that has to pull out sexism because no one else will do it. So what we're doing is building up the statistics, becoming welcoming, but also giving those female and non-binary engineers the confidence that they can win something, they can be successful at something. And all the outcomes of the applications are based on statements they submit on why they would like to be part of the society, what it is that they're working on, and how this would help them. We have also been able to award 2 he/she mastering conference tickets, so there were 2 awardees to go in for free to the mastering conference happening towards the end of September. And we are now in the process of awarding 5 new bursaries. The applications are closed under the sponsorship of MathWorks for engineers in Glasgow and Cambridge, where the offices are. And delighted to announce that yesterday we've been able to confirm 4 new bursaries for membership sponsored by Genelec. So what you can do, if there is someone from an audio company in here, no pressure, can't give me money. If you are interested in sponsoring bursaries, please get in touch. And again, financially, it's not a lot of money, but you would make a huge difference for the people that are awarded this. If you're an individual, that is likely to give us money, that's fine. Do let your students and your colleagues know. People, to be able to apply for this opportunity and benefit from them, they do need to know they exist. So we count a lot on our colleagues and a lot of academics to actually tell their students, this is available, you should apply. And encourage people to do so. Women are known to go for opportunities less often than men, even if they are just as qualified. So don't be scared of actually approaching people and saying, you would be great for this, you should do it. And please do that in every opportunity. A couple of years ago, I made a huge mistake. I had an opportunity for jobs in a film I was producing, and I didn't want to be seen as benefiting students over others, so I didn't encourage anybody particularly. But my film ended having an issue of gender disbalance, and ever since then I thought this was me. I should have gone to my female students and I told them, you would be good for this, you should apply. And I was scared. I was scared of what other people would think, and it was a mistake. So don't make that mistake. There's nothing wrong with trying to address an imbalance. And now that's what I've done since then. If there is an opportunity, I try to approach those that are less likely to apply, but just as good to go for it. So do please disseminate our opportunities. This is just a starting point for us in the IASUK. We hope to do much, much more. But bear in mind that all this has been achieved in about 8 months, and the whole initiative is only led by 2 people. That is myself and past chair of the IASUK and founder of Big Bear Audio, Charlie Slee. So we do everything ourselves. So I think we do pretty good with what we've got. But of course, if you help us with funding, if you can, if you're a company and with dissemination, we can do even better. And that's it, really. Thank you.
So we're now going into the Q&A session. Has anybody got any questions?
Yeah, I just wondered whether, you talked very much about these technology courses, which seem to me like a very clearly a very gendered space, and really a continuation of the old take-off model of learning, actually, in lots of ways. But there are virtual spaces now, sites like lynda.com, that certainly seem to empower students to learn at home, by themselves, and actually somehow that's not being reflected in some statistics because those things aren't coming up. Certainly, I teach at the University of Westminster, and we have a pretty much 50-50 gender split, and the young women on our courses, they all become producers because that just seems like a natural extension of what they're doing. A lot of them are artists, but they then become producers, and they are taught technology, but they also use the online resources a lot, and that isn't a gendered space. And that's a very kind of powerful tool, actually, and a different location, which I'm just wondering if that's getting missed in the figures somehow, because those people aren't necessarily signing up to courses. I don't know, it's an observation or just throwing that idea out really.
Do you mean missed in the figures of the recent exercise for Georgina Moore, or the one that I was showing earlier? Or all of it?
All of it, in that it seems to be focusing on courses as a learning space, and I'm absolutely sure that that's correct.
Yes, I think it's a really valid point. There's a huge DIY scene, and the Yorkshire Network it touches on that scene, and so we do have a fair understanding of who's involved. I haven't come across annual values because of our institutional subscription, but it isn't cheap. And a lot of people disassociate on purpose with the university sector in terms of what it represents. It doesn't represent them. So there's a huge amount of activity that is invisible in those statistics, for sure.
Yeah, I was giving that as one example, really.
that relates to the point I was making earlier, really, that practices are changing, evolving, but the economics of it aren't. And in fact, when you said it's really important that the Salmon Network meets for 36 meetings, on average 4 people meet to do organisation work at a rate of maybe £20 an hour, hypothetically. It comes to £8,000 worth of labour, unpaid labour. That's just being present in the room at those meetings, not writing up minutes or applying for grants. That kind of activism and that kind of work is really, really tough. And working out who does that 5% represent, what kind of ethnicity is in the group, who will be supporting when we raise money, what kind of proactive agendas do we have around disability and ability. It raises all sorts of, it's Pandora's box, and that's also emotional and economic labour. It's all happening outside of academia and institutions like this and industry, and that's why finance and support is urgently, I would say urgently needed for those communities who don't necessarily have that kind of access, or even time to look at how to become a social enterprise company, or how to organise and how to set a bank account, all of that. It's just really time consuming. It takes you away from delivering practice. So in a way, the easy route is going to do a degree.
Sure, yeah, absolutely.
But a lot of people don't choose that route for all sorts of interesting reasons.
I think just to add to that, I think that's a very good point. I would be interested in also knowing the stats of what Belinda.com taught earlier courses, who is teaching them on what their gender is, because the ones I've seen have all been male.
Well, if you want to know, Dr. Kirsten Hermes, who's lecturing, giving a paper here today or tomorrow, is teaching a lot of technology. So
that's, again, the ones I've seen have all been male, but I watched the ones that were free too. So maybe that's...
she's a great role model.
Yeah, okay. No, that's interesting,
young technologists of any gender.
Absolutely.
That's the other point, that when we do the research, that lots changed since 2011 and 12. There's been an acceleration in movement and a coming together, which is really positive and exciting. But we still are in a situation where many of the courses are taught by middle-class men, and there's a lot of ex-industry that's there too. And so, that's not going to change overnight. And it's not a case of just the role model issue, but it's actually to do with curriculum design, it's to do with your lesson plans, it's to do with your recommended reading, recommended listening. The best that I remember seeing was things like Taurus and Garbage were about the only two that the middle-class men picked. The rest were, all the other bands. So all of that, and then to what end? Are the jobs out? Could I put my hand on my heart and say to any female or male artist who wants to just go out and release their music or have a career in record production, music production, go and do a degree in music production? Probably not. I would really, if they wanted a degree, I would encourage them to probably go and get a business degree and probably chip in and pay a professional producer to shadow them and use that money in order to put that on the CV and learn that and put money in their pockets. And actually, to me, that's a brilliant model, and that's what I would do if I was starting all over again. But I would still want a degree, so I would go and do a business degree or something entrepreneurial, or even not even a business degree, something else that I can bring to the table that allows me to engage in expanding my knowledge and my ability to demonstrate that I bring all these other things to the table apart from just this myopic, I love music and I want to be famous, all sorts of things. But, in the end, what is, we keep talking about this
problem, well we don't, but of course we keep talking about it as a problem, but, and that there's a problem, there's a solution, but we don't really identify what is the problem. Why are we trying to solve this problem, and why are we even talking about this problem, and why are we missing, I guess that's with women produce music, but we want to really promote as well what women are doing, and listen to women. For them to tell their own stories and what they want to do, and young women and young girls, we can learn a lot from just listening to, what they're doing. And, the same answer to a question about statistics, how many are self-taught, and how many identify, lots and lots of people call themselves producers when they're talking about themselves as composers using technology, and that skews the conversation as well.
We're actually on 1 hour.
Brilliant.
At the moment, we started a few minutes late.
Okay.
I'm conscious that others might have questions.
Last question?
I'm a vice chair of the student committee for AES, that's international. I am also the only female faculty member and researcher in audio technology program. My question is how it comes from both of those perspectives. I've heard in both of these institutions a lot. We need more role models, obviously, which is what you all talked about doing, right? Presenting more role models and promoting publicity. And I found myself in meetings with both of these institutions saying, role models are great, I love role models, but what we really need is respect. And I'm wondering how maybe you can share your individual stories about that, or your own thoughts about how do we go from a sort of gender parity, okay, we're doing gender parity now, or greater representation, to genuine respect for women who are professionals now and women who are aspiring to become professionals.
It was me first. Fantastic. We're really concerned with bringing people together who are maybe already established. There are a lot of people who come to our meetings in a social context. We're actually often older ladies who've done other things and they come back into audio. They're not necessarily looking to produce music professionally. Some of them are. Learning respect isn't something we prioritise, but creating an environment where they can learn and feel comfortable to do that, and develop knowledge and share resources is what we're all about. In terms of other initiatives that we do, targeting young people in cold spots. Again, the focus is really on the practice. I feel like there's so many things that we can do, but there are only so many things that we can do, so I feel like there's so many networking focused on that. Something to think about.
I think it's a culture thing. I think it's just, I know it's an obvious answer to the question. I just think it takes years and years to change that. But just to give you an example, I mean, a few months ago I got an email from someone complaining about our series of lectures, saying you're inviting this PhD supervisors and their students. I mean, PhD supervisors, they're professionals, they're doing the work, they're students. I explained to this human being that those are the audio engineers in the future, and yeah, we were going to be giving them a platform to present their work. I suspect that wasn't his problem. I suspect that there was another problem hidden behind that comment, but that kind of perfectly illustrates this thing. Your point is, we're giving people a platform, and you have sadly this sector of people, which I think are a minority actually, that are actually thinking, oh yeah, they're invited, but they're actually, they shouldn't be there. That's not their platform. They should invite my buddy that I went for drinks after the studio session for 20 years. And that is actually when you got to the bottom of what that discourse was, that was exactly what it was. It was someone that was saying, back in my day, we invited blah blah blah, and I told him, you were inviting your mates. That's what you were doing. You were inviting the people that you liked, and everybody else that did not fit your criteria was left aside. That was a conversation that went on for a while. Finished with both accepting, putting our points forward and ending it amicably. But I think that is crucial, and I think because we don't want, of course we want to be platforms to all these wonderful women and girls, but we want them to be treated with the respect that they deserve. I sadly, my personal, this is just a personal opinion, I think that that's just going to come with time. I think that when it gets normalised and people get used to being recognised for their work and not to constantly be thinking this person was invited just because, which is something that I have, it crosses my mind when I get invited to things as well. I don't know what happens to the rest, but I sometimes get invited to things, like part of me thinks, I know I'm invited because they had to fill your quota. But I do it anyway, just because of the same reason that you said before. It's because, well, someone's making an effort, you do it. But the back of your head is always that, why am I really being invited to give this talk here? Is it really me, or is it that they just want to look good? So I think that once that stops being a thing, because people or organisations are inviting, people irrespective of their gender and people are given a platform, then that is going to be solved. I sadly think that's going to take decades. That's a really depressing answer. Sorry.
Yeah.
I'm not. Again, it's an opinion. I might be wrong. Yeah, probably. Yeah.
For me, I just think that the respect thing comes with respect from who, in terms of who we're talking about. Are we talking about industry? We're talking about academia? We're talking about gender? We're talking about journalism? There's all sorts, and what do we mean by respect? Is it recognition or is it something else? So I think, like everything, all the terminology that we use, that needs to be dissected before we can even start to answer or address most of this conversation. But ultimately, I have no idea, because there's times that I think industry is still used to, and I talk about industry because of my role, industry still wants a safe pair of hands responding, so they think that you may think that you may have no respect, but maybe you're a safe front person, and that's why they keep giving you the same stage and platform. But show some criticism, perceived criticism, and that respect will probably go. So, and that's not about respect, that's about power.
The University of Huddersfield, inspiring tomorrow's professionals.